Truly. Absolutely. How y'all doing? How y'all doing, my YouTube family? Hello, hello, hello. I hope y'all got my notifications on so you know I'm live right now. We Talk About It Tuesday. Here we go. Here we go. We'll Talk About It Tuesday. I know I released my other video yesterday. Hey, Mika. Hey, hey, hey. So I'm live on YouTube too. So go ahead and switch over to the YouTube because you know I only be on here for a minute to introduce the topic. And then we be on YouTube. So yes, let everybody know we Talk About It Tuesday. I got some stuff we need to talk about on Tuesday because you know what? I ain't as busy as I thought I was. The universe freed up some stuff in my day, some stuff in my week. So I ain't as busy as I thought I was this week. So we talked about some vocab yesterday. That's cool. But today we going to talk about some real get down stuff because I need to have this conversation with everybody. I need everybody to know. Hello, hello, hello. Come on over. If you are just joining me, hey Mika again. How you doing, girl? Thank you. Let everybody know. Switch on over. Come on in because Talk About It Tuesday about to get popping. If y'all enjoyed my Thought About It Thursday, let me tell you, Talk About It Tuesday be popping, y'all. Be popping. Hey, Bisha, how you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Join us over here on the YouTube, on the CWC Education Station. If you don't know, now you know. Yes, I have a YouTube channel, the CWC Education Station. Come on over and join us because I'm about to get it popping. Because there's some stuff you can't say on Instagram, but I can say it on YouTube. I can say it to y'all over here, right? But it's about to get popping because I got to talk about it. So if you've seen the title of it, if you popped over to YouTube and you saw my title, I really want to have a conversation about them strong women badges of honor. I want to have a conversation about some badges of honor that we walking around with. I really want to have a conversation about that because I was a part of a conversation earlier last week that sparked a very real conversation within my circular group, within my circular community. It sparked a conversation that needed to be had. And I had to bring some real light to an issue. So if you want some details, come on over to YouTube, Instagram. And how y'all doing over here on YouTube? How y'all doing? Thank y'all for joining. Hey, girl, hey. Because I'm telling you, we had some deep conversations, but this conversation I'm having is an ongoing conversation that I've been having for a while. And it made me think, yeah, come on over, switch on over. It made me really think, like real talk, think about how we show off our badges of honor. How we be so prideful on some things. How we show off certain things. So I'm just saying, listen, I wanted to give a few people a moment to join because they be like, Trisha, I didn't know you went live. Why didn't you tell nobody? Tell them right now. Tell everybody I'm live right now. We about to talk about some badges of honor that we have as women. I'm bare today because I'm talking it. We gonna lay all of this bareness out today. I ain't got no jewelry on. I do got my stones, but you don't need to know where they at. I got my stuff on me. I'm protected, but I ain't showing off. But I really want to talk about the badges of honor. I really want to have that conversation right now with us. Like, to be fair and to be completely honest, I want to talk about it. Talk About It Tuesday. I had came up with this concept right before I went into another discussion with some other ladies. I didn't have a whole lot I needed to say because I've been trained on this for a while. And I say for a while because a lot of you may not know my actual background, so I'll spill it out real briefly for you. My actual background, I have 17 years of experience in social work, period. So if you can think of what social work does, I've possibly done it. I've done child welfare, I've done mental retardation, I've worked with the elderly in residential treatment facilities, I've done adult service coordination, I've worked with youth. I'm currently a certified lactation counselor. Like, I put education behind the stuff that I got. I wasn't out here just living life because I could. I mean, I could, and I was taking advantage of the opportunities that were given. Absolutely. So I have the education behind the stuff that I got. So when I say that I've been having this conversation for a long time, I'm thankful to be able to bring it to these platforms. Like, real talk. I'm thankful to be able to bring it to these platforms because another queen touched on it. She touched on it so much, there's a whole group about it. But I really need us to have this conversation. Because it's a great conversation we all need to be a part of, but I need us to have this conversation. So here it is. Because I talked about it way too long, introduced the topic, talked about it way too long. So here it is. The conversation that we're having is about our badges of honor. how we tell the story of how we live through stuff. Hey, you, hey, you, hey, you. Listen, thank you for joining us because I'm telling you, I'm about to get into it. The conversation that we are having is really about our badges of honor and how we tell the story of how we got through some stuff. So let me be clear. Let me be crystal clear for everybody. I'm also a trainer in mental health. So I do what I do on a professional basis on purpose. But this conversation I can't have on every platform, and I'm having it right now with y'all. I'm having it right now with y'all. So I want to have that real conversation, like real shit. You got to understand for your strong friend, because I'm real talking. If some of these points hit home, that's because you are the strong friend. And as the strong friend, we preserve a lot of the innermost workings of how we got through some stuff. We refuse to release how we released to our other friends. We just tell them we got through it. It was cool, girl. I mean, on the other side, life is good, but we forget to talk about those bouts of depression, anxiety, those times where we weren't so sure, where our faith wasn't as strong as it could have been, those innermost questions that we ask ourselves, the real shit. When we give up our badges of honor, we be like, oh yeah, I survived. They nearly killed me. Like, I kid you not. I told you, thought about it Thursday. If you was here for Thought About It Thursday, when I talked about how it was important for my little person to know why she was so important to me in my life, I need you to understand that we about to have this conversation about why I was able to have that conversation. Because to be honest, there's a lot of us who don't know how to get through that point. We don't know how to talk about our trauma without living it. And yeah, I said the T word. Call your friends, phone a friend, tag them in, share the video right now, because I'm really dead serious about this. Like, excuse me when I say dead, because this topic is killing us. It is taking us out by the numbers. There are so many of us who are living under a blind truth, and I need to uncover that right now today. All those strong women badges of honor, we really need to have a conversation about checking that shit. Real talk. We got to understand that we got to stop crying about shit before we really have something to cry about. Right? Right. What happens a lot of the times, and I witnessed this firsthand, and I honestly, like, everything in my soul wanted to drag this chick in the parking lot. But at the end of the day, the only thing I could offer her was some real kind words, because the way she was treating this little person really understood to me why we need to have this fucking conversation. So let me talk about it real quick. As a single parent, you heard me, fucking single parent. I know there's a bunch of single parents out there. As a fucking single parent, your child is your lifeline. I get it. You did a lot of shit to preserve that motherfucking life. I get it. But what you not gonna do is treat that life as if it doesn't deserve the highest of the praise for making it through your shit. You heard me. Let me really get into why I'm having this badge of honor conversation. Because I can say I'm a single parent absolutely all day, every fucking day. I can say that shit. And if you know my situation, you know why I can say that shit. I'm saying it. But let me say that I'm not saying it because of a badge of honor. I'm not walking around, oh, fuck all the men in the world, girl, it's just me and the kids. I got us. Fuck that shit. No, you don't see me boasting like that at all. I'm not doing that right now on this platform. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I do. What I'm here for, though, is to explain that as a single mother, I struggle with a lot more internally than most people who have a partner that they can talk openly to about some shit. What I'm saying in that statement is that I live under trauma on a lot of different sides that really has none shit to do with me. You heard me. None shit to do with me. But I live under somebody else's fuck trauma. And then I got to protect me and my little person from it. And then you expect me to make split decisions without an attitude. I'm a single fucking mother. I understand what it looks like to be a human being, and it's that simple. But as a single parent, We also need to understand that we cannot use that as a badge of courage and honor and protection. We need to use it as a source to have a conversation with other women about the shit I just said, about the depression, the anxiety, and the trauma that we go through on a daily fucking basis. I just experienced that shit. And the crazy part is I was shopping in the store, minding my own goddamn business. This woman is yelling at this child that ain't even 2 feet fucking high at the top of her voice, using the same profanity I'm using right now with adults. And everything in my body, including the workers, are like, I can't believe she's doing that. The next thing that clicked in my head was, I can believe she's doing it, and I understand why. I understand why she's doing it. She's doing all of this because she has no one else to speak to about this. She has no one else that she can communicate on that level with. And she feels like, because I brought you into this world, I can talk to you however the fuck I feel like it, and I dare anybody to say anything. Why do I know that woman felt that way? Because you could see it in her voice every time everybody clutched their pearls or gasped or said, oh. And then my 6-year-old is like, who's she talking to? So I stood there and said, her child. And my 6-year-old is like, oh, okay. And I politely let it ride. As we go out the door, she tells the child to stay inside the store so she can run to her car. Mind you, when I said single parent, this mother is a mother of 2 little, I'm sorry, she had 3 little people with her. One on her hip, one in her hand, and one dragging right behind her. They were literally within 18 months within each other. That means she got pregnant, had another baby, got pregnant again, had another baby. She had 3 babies back to back. In seeing this single mother, I realized that we need to have a fucking conversation. We need to have a conversation about the words that part from our mouths, about the gasping of our hearts, about us saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's doing that shit in public." We need to have a conversation. So I did have a conversation with that mother, and this is how that conversation went. I went to go out the door. She yelled at the child, "I fucking told you. I fucking thought I told you to stay the fuck in the store." I said, "I'm sorry, sis." I opened the door. The child was crying at the door. Unfortunately for the child, he had no idea. I'm sorry, this is a little girl. And I corrected myself because this little girl had no idea that you were coming right back. And as an adult who was standing right behind this child getting ready to go out the door, I opened the door so the child could see you. But sis, I stood right here to make sure your child was safe on the sidewalk. Oh, thank you. And bobbled her ass right into the city trend. Yes, fuck she did, y'all. Yep, that's what happened. That's exactly what the fuck happened, y'all. I'm over on the YouTube too. That's what happened. I could have been somebody else though. I could have been the same person that I had been on several days before and not said not shit, pushed the child enough to make sure that me and my kid got through, and let that child cry on the inside of that door without giving some type of words to that woman. That's our fucking problem now. We sit back and we let our sisters wear this badge of honor. She's a single parent shopping in city trends with her 3 kids. She got a car, one on the hip, one in the hand, and the other one coming behind. I got mine. She in there purchasing for hers. But with all of that trauma and anger and anxiety and all of that talk, that 2-second conversation I gave her changed the whole dynamic of how she started to speak to that child afterwards. And that is what changed the trauma in that child's life. So I want to go back to a point that I was starting to make that I derailed from, because the point was our badges of honor, a lot of us don't realize that they come from that. Stop crying before I give you something to cry for. That was a fucking trauma point for a lot of us. And from that point on, we stopped crying until we had something to cry for. And we stopped getting sister circles. We stopped telling people when we were depressed. We stopped telling people when we felt anxious and uncomfortable. We started wearing that shit like an honorable badge. And I don't give a fuck if you think I'm mean. I'm me. Take me how I'm me. We started putting on these fucking fronts. And now we got women acting a fool in city trends and other women who are just willing to let that shit happen. Didn't nobody else say nothing to that woman. I'm the only one who said something to her in passing. And it's something I said to her was about keeping her child safe and recognizing that the child didn't know where she was. That 2-second fucking conversation, how many of us could have used that shit? She definitely has, but guess who was able to say something about it though? That's my issue. All of us are victims of a trauma cycle that our parents fucking started. Every person who grew up in an African American or a minority household was told, stop crying before I give you something to cry about. I kid you not. They was told that you are to be seen, not heard. This is the reason why we got to have this conversation. This is why I brought it to talk about it Tuesday, because that strong badge of honor that our parents was showing off, how they was keeping a roof over our head, how they was keeping us fed, shoes on our feet and shit, and cussing us the fuck out and making us feel this big, started a trauma cycle that we pass on to our children. We focus on in all of our relationships. I just need somebody to treat me right. But the real talk is we still don't know how to treat ourselves right. We still feel uncomfortable taking ourselves to the fucking McDonald's drive-thru. We don't know what the fuck to do with free time. That's still a conversation we need to have. We need to have these conversations surrounded what trauma really looks like, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who are out here going from religion and spirituality, doing shadow work, and they still don't know what the fuck trauma looks like. Trauma looks like your best friend stabbing you in the back and you smiling at that bitch and still performing on the team. That's what happened the other day at your same job. Are you not realizing we're accepting a lot of trauma experiences in our adult lives? And then we're passing that shit off like it's somebody else's problem. And we're not realizing that we are accepting that shit. We really need to have a conversation about it. Like, real talk. I will go fucking horse today about this conversation, because when I entered the last conversation and it was brought up that women did not understand how to deal with trauma, they didn't understand how to say no to an advancement. Like, real talk. Exactly, Mika. Too much, too soon, too fast. And honestly, at this point, I have to add on all the fucking time. If you keep telling me I got a fat ass, at which point am I not supposed to tell you it's making me uncomfortable? I don't give a fuck if you like to look at it. It makes me uncomfortable that you keep drawing it out. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me feel like I'm physically intimidated by you because you keep pulling out one of my physical attributes that someone hurt me about. I should be able to comfortably tell you to shut the fuck up and stop talking to me about that. It hurts. We should be able to have more of these conversations. I kid you not. As women, as Black women, as minority women, we really need to take an opportunity to look at how deep that trauma is. When your mama told you look like a hot mess on your prom day, now that's why you can't wear a dress? Come on. What about somebody you went out and you spent big money on something and you felt real proud about it, and somebody told you, well, shit, if you'd have spent $50 more, you could have had what I got? No. Sisters, we need to take an opportunity to have these conversations, because I'm telling you, them fucking paper cuts turn into gashes. Them gashes start to bleed, and we start to get our sisters acting out in city trends with their children. They're wearing trauma all over their clothes. You can see that the only reason why she's there is because somebody else ain't doing what they supposed to do with her. And we out here, well, I'm a single mom, I got that. I don't give a fuck. I need somebody to talk to and tell you, sis, today was not a good day. I went through doing all types of stuff and I felt this fucking big about it. As a matter of fact, I went around the corner to get change for some shit and these dudes kept whistling at me and it made me scared. I should be able to express that fear. I should be able to talk to my sisters about it. I should not see you flipping the fuck out in a public place because it was too much, too fast, too soon, like Mika said. And then I add, it was all the fucking time. You might have been the sixth person that just gave her a look. I was the eighth person that actually said, sis, it's going to be all right. That child just didn't understand. Have some patience. Absolutely, them gashes get infected. And then they become troubled relationships. You can't keep a job. Now, don't nobody want to hear what you got to say because you complaining all the time. Fuck out of here. Let's talk about that shit for real. Sisters, we have something to cry for. We've had something to cry for since the beginning of fucking time. Since humanity has started, we have had tears to shed. So leave that trauma shit behind. Quit telling yourself, I'm weak if I express my emotion. You're weak if no one knows what the fuck is wrong with you. You can be a single mother all day. You can be a domestic violence survivor all day. You can be an orphan all day. And I'm the first one to tell you, I've been orphaned within 18 months. Yes, I'm an orphan, an adult fucking orphan. I lost both of my parents in 18 months. It was one of the worst pains that I could ever go through in life. And at the end of the day, I did not have the level of support that I needed because I didn't know how to say what the fuck I needed. I got it afterwards. And those who was able to be there were able to help. But it made me really think, out of the 17 years that I've been in social work, what has stopped me from telling the people closest to me what is going on with me? Why aren't we having these conversations? Why aren't we talking to each other about this stuff? Why? Because my mother told me, don't cry or I'm going to give you something to cry about. That's why. Every time I found myself in a bathroom feeling lower than low because my milk supply was low and this white lady was saying she was going to take my baby from me. And I'm crying. I'm telling myself, suck it up, suck it up. You can't do this. You can't do this right now. They're going to take her. You can't do this shit. Pull yourself together, girl. But to be the real honest to God truth, I couldn't pull myself together, girl. I didn't know how. I didn't even know what I was dealing with. And at that point, I had already had 10 years worth of education under my belt. Professional fucking education. I'm 30 years old in here. Crying in a fucking bathroom because I don't know how to handle these emotional concerns. And although I'm taught to teach other people, I was taught that these concerns were outside of myself. They are never outside of yourself. You need to understand that the trauma that we experienced as children, we allow that shit to happen as adults because we are scared to say no. It's a complete fucking sentence. A woman by the name of Coach Monique, I read her book. She coached me, I'm sorry. But this woman, I read her book. It's on Amazon. I'll get y'all the exact names in the descriptions and shit later. But I read this book, and the one portion of this book was important, and it stuck with me for the past 4 years. No is a complete fucking sentence. You can read it in a book with a period. I can say it with my voice with a period. I can emphasize the period if you want me to. It's a complete sentence. I'm allowed to say no. I'm allowed to tell you that your contact is unwanted. I'm allowed to tell you it makes me uncomfortable when you're this close to my face yelling at me just because you feel like you need to express a point. I'm allowed to tell you that your scent makes me uncomfortable when I need to leave this space. We need to practice giving ourselves permission to do the shit that we are supposed to do, which is fucking live. We have put ourselves behind a lot of trauma screens. A lot. And the human protective factor, because I took notes on this. It's a human protective factor. Don't go back and blame your parents for telling you not to cry. The human protective factor in our parents telling us, you better stop crying before I give you something to cry for, is because there was a worse at one point in time. At one point in time, you could cry and they would kill you, and there was nothing I could do about it because they kill me too. You absolutely right. We all hold that shit in and don't take it out on the people who deserve it. And you're right. We got to learn how to open up and deal with it. And that's the conversation I'm having right now. How do we learn how to open up and deal with this trauma? This trauma that's holding us back from our other positions, this trauma that's holding us back from our dream jobs, this trauma that's gotten us fired and kicked out of places. I told y'all yesterday I got kicked off the goddamn team. I didn't give a fuck though. I can tell you why I didn't give a fuck. Because the neighborhood and the area in which I came from told me that if some bad shit happened to you, you supposed to say you don't give a fuck. Because then everybody ain't gonna care, even though you care the most. Absolutely. We have to reclaim our humanity and be more strong. Absolutely. I'm all the way with you, cousin. All the way with you on that. And it can't be a revolving door. You said it right, Mika. It becomes a revolving door of pain. You said it right. And where I'm at is it ain't gonna be a revolving door of pain. We ain't gonna keep doing that shit. We ain't gonna keep doing that shit. I don't know to tell you we ain't gonna keep doing that shit. So the conversation I'm having is, how do we start with the trauma? How do we understand that it's trauma? How do we understand that there's a point in our life in which it's provoking emotions and it had nothing to do with that situation? Because I'm not telling you that you shouldn't be mad at McDonald's for fucking up your order. What I'm saying is you don't need to slap the clerk for fucking up your order. That's what I'm saying. How do we control the slap reaction? I'm not saying that you shouldn't cuss your supervisor out for being an ass. Seriously, if they ass, they ass. Call it what it is. But what I'm saying is you ain't got to cuss him out, break down in the office and beg for your fucking job, is what I'm saying. How do we get you to not get to that point? Let's talk about it. When we're talking about dealing with trauma, like real talk, when we're talking about dealing with trauma, you have to talk about why you are so scared. Trauma never comes from a place of flat out aggression. It always has a byproduct of aggression. So I'm hoping you heard me, and I hope you got your handy dandy notebook, because here it go. Trauma never comes from a place of aggression. It's always a byproduct of aggression. You've heard before, hurt people hurt people. Well, big beefy dude didn't start slapping bitches because he could. He started slapping bitches because somebody poked him in the back. Trauma breeds aggression. He ain't start slapping bitches because ain't nobody poke him in the back. He started slapping bitches because his dad slapped him and called him a bitch. Trauma breeds aggression. Why is your child always ready to fuck something up? Because you told them that's the only way I'll love you. Every time they beat the neighborhood kid up, you came in and high-fived and they got to eat a home-cooked meal. What did you teach them? Beat the people up, I feed you. That sounds real fucking familiar to slavery, don't it? So what I'm getting at is this. Don't be a slave to your trauma. When we start to break down real trauma, like real facts, when we start to break down real facts of trauma, you got to go to your place of hurt, your place of fear, the place that made you feel uncomfortable in your own goddamn skin. That is the place that you start to tell yourself, I forgive you, and it happened. I forgive you, and it happened. It's important for you to take that moment and tell yourself, I mean, real talk, stand in the mirror, turn on your video camera. If you feel like you need to make a YouTube video, I forgive you, and it happened. You need to recognize that it happened. Trauma doesn't go away because you forgot the details. And to be honest, you never do forget the details. What they say, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Because you knew better. You never forget the details of trauma. If you live through a very horrific sexual experience, you remember all the details. If you live through a horrific physical experience, you remember all the details. Do yourself a favor and let yourself feel the details so that you can stop making decisions like they didn't happen. We have a protective factor within humanity, like real talk. We have a protective factor within humanity to falsify a trauma experience. And that's what I meant by our badge of honor. Yeah, girl, he raped me and I lived through it. Fuck that nigga though. He got what's coming to him. Yeah, I was a victim of child molestation, but I'm a whole adult now. You see me living, breathing, walking. And those are the badges of honor that we need to be aware of. Because let me tell you, as a victim of both, every day is a fucking challenge for me. There's some information I would rather people not fucking share. And because they do, I definitely have to put on a brave face. And at the end of the day, I remember the details as if I was there with them. That's called vicarious trauma, y'all. That's what I meant. And I add all the fucking time. Absolutely. Too much, too soon. And then I add all the fucking time. Because when you work in my field of expertise, when you work in social work, when you're in mental health, when you coach women on childbirth, when you have womb wellness conversations, you are always in a position of being reminded of what your trauma looks like. But you are always in a position to share with a sister about, and you right, Zen Vibe, horrific emotional experiences as well. You're always in the same position to share with that sister how you got through it. Don't need to look like a badge of honor. It needs to look like we all recovered from it and we can all make better decisions. Some of us more than others. And every day is a fucking trial. How about that? That way, when that sister is in that store acting a whole goddamn fool, you ain't ready to punch her fucking lights out. You can simply say, like I did, hey sis, I understand that you had to go and do something, but this child didn't know that. And neither did any of the other adults around you. So I get it. I do. Have a good day. And that's all I said to her for real. I ain't have to say nothing more because that's what prompted me to have this discussion with y'all. Like real talk, to have this discussion about having some real trauma work done. You have to go to your place of hurt and you have to tell yourself, I forgive you. Because I'm going to be honest, as a child, there was not shit you can do about an adult attacking you. As a child, there ain't shit you can do about an adult attacking you. Let me say it again. As a child, there is not shit you can do about an adult attacking you. Whether it was an emotional attack, a physical attack, or a deliberate mental attack telling you that you fat, you too dark, you don't look like the rest of the people in the family, your hair is nappy. All of those fucking attacks that came from an adult were trauma experiences and there was not shit you can do. And as an adult, quit penalizing yourself for not doing anything. Forgive yourself and let yourself know that it happened and you lived through it. And there was other happier moments, like the time where you punched that bitch in the face for taking your shit. Happy moment. Happier moments. And in those happier moments, you can now redirect and focus. Like real talk. And you can say, I did that shit. That was me making an impact on my life. That was not what they told me I was. What they say from The Color Purple, I may be fat. I might even be ugly. Right? Ain't stop her from whooping nobody's ass. It ain't stop her. At the end of the day, it can't stop you either, sis. And you don't necessarily have to whoop ass in a physical context. You don't have to lay hands on somebody and put yourself or your family at risk. What I'm saying is to take an opportunity to look at the reason why. Look at your trauma point. Look at every time your parent told you, stop crying or I'm going to give you something to cry about. Look at every fucking circumstance that surrounded that point and tell yourself, I forgive you. And you experienced it. You lived through it. Yes, I'm still here. There's a whole goddamn song that I used to bang. And I'll still bang it to this day. I don't care religious or not. And it's called I'm Still Here. And dude, Travis Green, I think is his name. It's either Tavis Green or Travis Green. He made that song. I know the last name is Green. Your homeboy flat out said, you tried to fucking kill me. You set up, I don't know how many goddamn setups. And you tried to fucking kill me. But guess what? I'm still here. I'm still here. And I'm hearing many generations, okay? I'm hearing facets. If you're on a spiritual level, if you're on your trips around the sun like we are, then you understand that not only are you still here, you've been trying to kill me off for centuries and good fucking luck because I got some more centuries of some shit coming for you. How about that? How about that? Come for me again. You might be able to hit this physical body as hard as you can, but the spirit inside ain't laying down to die. I don't know what to tell you. We'll be back. Stay tuned for the next life. I might be a white woman. I ain't got no sense. You know, I'm trying. But for real, when we had a conversation about our badges of honor, just that easy how we can slip into, yeah, girl, and I want us to also slip into, yeah, and today really wasn't that great of a day for me. Yeah, I mean, I seen y'all kikiing, but I'm gonna be honest, I really do miss my dick, y'all. I miss it. I'm feeling some type of way about it. I don't even understand why I miss it. Dude was abusive. He was a fucking asshole. And I mean, I like being around y'all, yes, but I like the way he cuddled with me, y'all. In between the hours of 3 and 6 when he wasn't punching me in the face. I like those cuddles. We got to be real and admit that shit. We got to be so real to admit that shit so that we can understand what the fuck we're looking for. Because you may not be looking for another person like the one you lost or left, but you're still very much looking for that warm, cuddly feeling. And you also have to look at why you're looking for it. I learned this term very early on in my collegiate career. It was called food. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me at the time in which they told me, but the acronym is food. I hope you got your handy dandy notebook. I learned this very on in my collegiate career. It's called food. Okay? So this is food. It's family of origin deficit. And I said, how the fuck y'all come up with that? Now, mind you, food was introduced to me in a social welfare institution class. Wait for it. Social welfare institution class, food is introduced. They wrote it up on the chalkboard, and I'm going to be honest with you, I got a whole ass fear of chalk, so I was already in the back of the class feeling some type of way about this chalk. He put food on the board. I said, food? Motherfucker, it's 8:30 in the morning. What the fuck are you doing? Food. Then he broke it down. Family of origin deficit. I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? Because now we got to talk about it. I'm a kid from the projects. I come from a split home. My parents were never married. My father always lived in a whole nother state, and I only had a very limited amount of interaction with him because of my mother's attitude. So if my mom was pissed, I ain't talked to my dad. When she got pissed enough and I was old enough, I got sent to my dad. But because my dad had a blended family, I was only able to stay for a certain amount of time. The only reason why is because of how my father felt, not because of how my stepmother felt. So let's talk about this shit for real. Badges of honor, y'all. My father was too proud to allow me to stay in his home because he did not feel like he had the qualifications to raise a girl. My mother was such an ass that she made this girl a whole ass woman and gave me adult responsibilities of raising my sister. We talk about trauma. I was the kid that was physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused, and mentally abused. I didn't even fucking know what emotional abuse was until I got my first job at CYF. Yes, 4 years of education, and I didn't even fucking know what emotional abuse was until I got my first job at CYF. And for those of y'all who don't know, it's the Child Protective Services. So y'all CPSs, same place. First job is when I learned what fucking emotional abuse looked like for real. Because I was always told, you ready for it? Stop crying before I give you something to cry about. And I didn't realize that was fucking emotional abuse. I didn't realize that someone telling me not to emote in a time in which they inflicted pain on me was emotional fucking abuse. Didn't even know it until I was a whole ass adult working for another agency to protect some people I didn't even fucking know. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought, right? Who'd have thought? So here we are. Here we are. Let's keep it going. When we had these conversations about trauma and we talk about our badges of honor, we have to be mindful of what we are hiding. As a person who has been through all of the levels of abuse in a lifetime, who can sit here and say, we need to have a conversation, and the conversation has to come from your fear, your hurt, your pain, because the aggression is a secondary symptom to the trauma. The aggression that was impacted on you to create your trauma was a secondary symptom of trauma. A lot of our parents, and the reason why my mother wasn't as great as she could have been is because my mother was a product of not having her parents. She lost both of her parents before she was 12. She was in the child welfare system with a person who cared about her, but more people who told her that she wasn't shit. And then she had me. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about, Zen Vibe, right there. You need to know how empowering it is to say that somebody tried to put out your light. You need to get to that position. You need to really identify what happened. So you can quit letting these paper cuts turn into gashes, that turn into hemorrhages, that turn into outbursts, that turn into spectacles, that turn into isolation, that tells you that you are invisible in your pain. That woman did not outburst in the middle of that store because she didn't want us to know what was going on. That woman outbursted in the middle of that store because she was crying out for fucking help. She needed somebody else to know that she was alive, she was around, and that they could hear her. And if the only way was for you to pay attention to that child, then thank you, bitch. You're welcome. You're welcome. If I ever get another opportunity to see that woman again, I'll gladly give her some more encouraging words, and it will be a lot more than the fact that the child just didn't understand. After having this conversation, I want our sisters to understand that checking in on your strong friend is more than just saying, are you okay, and accepting the fact that she said she's fine. Sometimes your strong friend really needs to understand that you can handle the emotions that they need to pull out, because your strong friends are the ones who are doing the human protective factor the most. They are the ones who are holding on to that trauma the most. They are the ones who are reliving it every day. Every time you call and say that nigga did something to you and she's like, bitch, let's go get it. She's reliving it with you the most. You need to be open with your strong friends. And I learned that recently. You need to let them know that you are not having good days. You need to let them know so that you can deal with the trauma for real. Shadow work ain't shit if you don't even know what the fuck you doing. And I'm being 110. I'm so tired of people saying, I'm doing the shadow work. I done did that. Oh, it looks like it's more I need to do. I understand what you think is going on, but that's not fucking shadow work. That's lying. If you're doing real shadow work, there's no more you need to do. It's a fucking consistent lifelong thing that you're going to keep doing because there's a whole lifetime that you live before you reach your spirituality, and you're going to have to deal with all of them fucking paper cuts. And I'm telling you, some of them bitches start hemorrhaging way before you can get a Band-Aid on them. Somebody will tell you a story and you find yourself going from 0 to 150 real quick. I kid you not. I got a phone call. I had my car keys in my hand, was already in the car before I had to think about the position I was putting myself in. I had to call that sister back and was like, hold on now. Wait a minute, sis. I know I'm the strong friend and I'm the one who always shows up for the fire because I bring the smoke and the fire. So I'm always the one who shows up for the fire because I'm going to always match your fire. As a matter of fact, not only I'm going to match your fire, I'm going to engulf that shit and we're going to keep going to the smoke. I ain't got time. I am that friend, but I had to figure out why you kept calling me to be that friend and why I was so voluntarily ready to put my friend self in that position. So now you can't call me if it involves bracelets. You can call me if it involves some decompression. You can call me if we doing a release. You can call me if you need a ritual to get rid of that shit. But what you're not going to do is call me to get bracelets with you this time, sis. Because no, for real, I dealt with that trauma feeling. That trauma feeling came from the fact that I wasn't good enough. That trauma feeling came from the fact that people kept telling me no matter how good I did, it still wasn't good enough. It came from the accolades that I received and then the suspension 2 weeks later. I know what that came from. It came from completing a course and being told I don't deserve the promotion because I'm still undereducated. I know where that shit came from. What we not gonna do is let it keep coming. We're gonna stop that shit right here. We're not gonna keep allowing ourselves to not have these real ass conversations with one another. We're not gonna keep allowing ourselves to just keep dipping off on each other. We're not gonna keep allowing one strong friend to keep being strong. Something's up. Have a conversation. Since I understand what that world looks like, I truly do. But how about we get you to a point where you know what help looks like as well? Did y'all hear my last? Did you see the video yesterday? You need to know what help looks like as well. And it's that simple. So I want to make sure that we understand, the correlation between the trauma and the generational curses. Because I said I was going to drop this gem on Talk About It Tuesday, and I really meant just that. I'm dropping this shit for real, laying it quite flat, and let me know if my road is bumpy. But trauma creates generational curses. Generational curses are the same as making the bad decision to go to the same hairdresser that keep pulling your hair out. It's that simple. If you have to break it down to a relative term, it's that simple. That means you went to the hairdresser that pulled your mama's hair out. Your mama went to the hairdresser that pulled her mama hair out. That mama went to the same hairdresser that pulled their hair out. That's a generational curse. You can break that shit though. When you break that shit, you break it down with trauma-informed ideals. You allow yourself to be forgiven for the shit that you experienced. I'm not telling you to say that you could have changed anything. You're here today. There was not shit you would have changed. But you can forgive you and allow the experience to be a part of your life. You need to experience it as a part of your life. It does not need to be a constant reminder. And this came off the topic, and I got to go to this topic real quick because this is how I got here. When I made the decision to do this video, I had watched the movie What's Love Got to Do with It for the first time as an adult. Now, when that movie came out, I was still very much a teenager, and I watched it again as a teenager. My mother watched it as an adult, but I got to experience that movie for the first time as an adult. And then, of course, I watched the Tina Turner documentary that was on HBO as an adult. I watched it for the first time as an adult. What I realized is we do not have a lot of these conversations in protection of one another in their traumatic event. A lot of people right now, if you watch that movie, What's Love Got to Do with It, you'll agree Angela Bassett played her ass off. We fucking love that movie. We all had a whole ass problem with your boy who played Ike Turner. Till this day, Ike Turner died with niggas hating him. Period. Period. Till this day, right? What I'm saying is I want us to understand that watching that movie as an adult, the most important message that I took from What's Love Got to Do with It is the fact that Tina Turner did not want to keep talking about it. A lot of people did not realize that when she wrote the book about her life, that was the last time she wanted to have a conversation about it. And then her life became a conversation about that one experience. She had made a statement in her documentary that I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going live on YouTube. The statement she made in her documentary was, if I'd have spoke up sooner about how uncomfortable I was in the moment when I was uncomfortable, I would have been able to lead a happier portion of life. Every time I had to discuss that experience of my life, it overshadowed what I was doing right then, and it made me feel bad. It made me hate my success. It made me feel some type of way about me. And had I told people this sooner, I would have been able to enjoy my life more. I said, ain't that about a bitch? What? What? Woman, you are an icon to the domestic violence survivors out there. Everybody and their cousin got a heel and was fucking they dude up in 93, sis. What you talking about? And then it clicked. That movie was built on her badge of honor. It was built on her survival. Nobody gave a fuck about how she felt. She didn't even want the movie to be made. They made that shit without her permission initially. As a matter of fact, I was thankful that they put in her documentary the original interview with Angela Bassett, and they asked her, how do you feel about being an icon for domestic violence? And Tina Turner, her goddamn self, responded, I wish y'all would stop talking about it. And adjusted herself in a seat. You see, I wrote the book so I wouldn't have to talk about it no more, but y'all keep bringing it up. I have a whole bunch of other things. Did everybody know that she was a fucking rock and roll icon? Fuck the song. Let's talk about the fact that this woman broke into rock and roll. Ain't nobody celebrating Tina Turner for that? What the fuck happened? We need to pay attention, sisters and brothers, if you on here too. We need to pay attention to our badges of honor. Pay attention to them. Because that badge of honor, did you realize we keep throwing it up in her face? You know how much fan mail she gets about how you survived? You right. Someone else is still living in that one moment. And what we can do as sisters, what we can do as family, what we can do as the people that care about human beings is we can discuss how we actually got through it. Because I'll tell you, I've had the worst of the worst pain in my life in the past 3 years. I've lost some of the most important people to me in my life in 3 years' time. My one friend said, Trish, I don't even know how you got through it. I said, girl, I burnt a lot of fucking paper. She said, what? You was doing that? I said, no. I had to write out my emotions and fold them away from me, and I had to burn them. I had to physically watch a lot of paper burn so that I could understand why I hurt so bad and what I needed. And at the end of the day, I remember the only thing I needed was a hug. Absolutely, she had so much more to offer than that one moment. She had so much more to offer in that one moment. As a matter of fact, Tina Turner, the reason why I brought her up is because her career started at 40. She is now 60 and is just now able to receive the credit of her rock career. This woman is toured all over Europe. In America, she's just a survivor of domestic violence from Mike Turner. As a matter of fact, her documentary shed a lot of light as to what actually goes on. And if you don't have a trauma event surrounding your outbreak, there's nothing to talk about. So although she was very, very successful before that book came out, the book overshadowed her rock career. And that's a sad thing to say, right? Because we give a fuck about your trauma, but won't give a fuck about how you feel about your trauma. Type of shit is that? We give a fuck about your trauma, but won't give a fuck about how you feel about it. She just wanted to stop talking about it. She wrote the book so that we would stop talking about it. She wrote the book so that it would be laid quite flat so no one else would ever have to bother her about it. And at the end of the day, how many times have we said that we're going to tell this story and it's the last time we tell this story? But the problem is every time someone else tells a story similar to that, it reopens the story for us. And we don't bother to tell them how we feel about it. Although our friends may be sharing with us their most intimate moments, their darkest moments, we need to be honest too, strong friends, and let them know sometimes that shit is hard to hear. Absolutely. That's America for you. Absolutely right. Absolutely. But let's take it a step further. It's not just some shit that happens in America. As a matter of fact, it ain't. I've been doing some research. It's some shit that happens in every fucking country with every fucking star that happens to write a book and it overshadows because the trauma was a lot more enticing than their actual career was. It's happened more than once, not to just Tina Turner, but I brought her to forelight because she's a Black woman and that's where I'm at. But when we're talking about the trauma, though, I want to make sure that I'm very clear that the conversation in this type of stuff isn't just an American thing. This is a whole humanistic trait. We literally hold on to generational curses by not telling our girlfriends, our relatives, how we feel about the trauma that they are experiencing. We are literally holding on to generational curses by thinking that we over some shit that we never let go. Okay. We can't tell ourselves that we are over some shit if we don't bother to let it go. And it's that simple. And the only way you can bother to let some shit go is to allow yourself to experience it. You have to say that it happened because ain't nobody else mad about the French fries that they ate last week. You experienced the French fries, you enjoyed the French fries, you let that shit go. You can do the same thing with your fucking trauma. You experienced your trauma, you lived your trauma, you can let that shit go. You can do it. It ain't hard. It ain't hard. As I sip my tea, absolutely. As I sip my tea, y'all. So I wanted to bring that to you because I want you to understand that we take our badge of honor as if it has military consequences, as if we are going to literally be berated by folk if we decide to act like it wasn't what it was. So I'll be honest in my badges of honor. Yes, I'm a whole single parent. My child has made it to see 6 years old. Let's keep it rolling, right? But it has been a very difficult ride on this trip. I never thought that I would see myself alone on this ride. When I envisioned this life, I envisioned it with another person. I didn't envision it with me having to answer all the questions, me having to deal with the crying, me having to deal with the attitude, me having to deal with that. And because I have to deal with it, there are some days where I don't want to deal with people at all. There are some days where my anxiety goes through the roof and I do not leave my house. There are some days where I'm very depressed and I sleep 3/4 of the day. There are some days where I have to take out my handy dandy notepad and write a whole bunch of emotions down and let it go. Absolutely holding on to everything. There are some days I'm realizing that my bag is full and I need to let that bitch go. I need to not hold on to it. You're right. There's some days I look at myself and be like, oh, you acting like a hoe. You gonna have to not be a hoe out here. You want to let that go, girl. Let it go. There wasn't shit you can do about it. But a lot of that comes from the trauma, and the trauma comes up in certain points when you actually give yourself an opportunity to experience life, when you give yourself an opportunity to experience it. So I'm telling you, go back and look at that. Go back and look at all of the points as a child where you felt scared, intimidated, where you felt like that this was the most unfair thing in the world, and I need you to stick a flag on it and call it a trauma point. And what you do is you go back to that child in that moment and you say, I'm sorry, I couldn't help you. And you lived through that experience. We're doing well now. And as many times as you need to say it to yourself in the mirror for you to get that shit through. I'm sorry, I couldn't help you. And you lived through that experience, and we're doing well now. So that you can change your thought process on what you think is trauma. So that you can actually do the shadow work that you're talking about doing. So when you experience another mother acting a fucking fool who looks like you can step up and say, sis, I understand you're going through something right now. I can hear it. I don't know what it is. But I can tell you I may have been there before or around the corner. Let me know if you need a moment to talk. Because right now, you're not talking, sis. You showing. And I'm going to need you to not do that if you want to keep being healthy with your little people. Or period, being healthy. Because at the end of the day, every time you show your ass in public, every time you cuss somebody out outside of your house, every time you go ham sandwich on the phone, you are showing your trauma. You are showing your aggression. You are showing your displeasement with your life. And it is O-fucking-K. Period. But remind yourself, why are you so upset? And the fact that you can live your life not being that way. Simple. Remind yourself that you could truly do yourself several services and favors by forgiving you about the shit that you mad about. Because I'll be honest, I spent 6 years in trauma. 6 years in trauma. And I spent 3 years in the child welfare system living vicariously in that same fucking trauma. And I can tell you it took me until now to realize that I can never make that decision again. I cannot go back into that system where they abuse the workers and the people and the families and be okay with it. I can now safely say that I have a stance. I am not willing to accept it. I don't give a fuck how much y'all pay me. I ain't coming back. I can't do it. I won't do it. No. Period. Y'all see me. And I'll wait. Because I kid you not, you can't pay me enough to put me back through vicarious trauma like that, because I understand that I can't do it no more. I won't do it, and I will not let you break me again. And you heard me again, because the first time you didn't even break me. I broke myself under that false badge, thinking that I could take on way more than what was given to me. Like Mika told us before, like we learned in our training, too much, too fast, too soon, all the fucking time is what I'm adding on. It was too much, too fast, too soon, all the fucking time. I work in social work, I come home, got to deal with social work, I broke. And when I say you break me, I'm telling my old self, I will not allow you to hold in those emotions anymore. I will not allow us to get to a point where we can't survive and have the will not to anymore. Because some of us may be too proud to admit that we had a moment where our will was gone to want to be on this plane. That's okay. I work with people on that capacity every day on purpose now. And the purpose that I work with them is helping them to understand that every day is a new opportunity for you to relearn what your will looks like. For you to redevelop how strong it really can be. Today it might have took a blow. It might have took a blow today. But tomorrow, we can come out swinging. So I want to be clear, we ain't holding on to everything like Mika said. If you're going to get some help, I want you to go back to some help. I want you to honor Expectations and learning possibilities. I want you to take this as real help. I want you to really look at this conversation today and be like, you know what? I really did feel some type of way that that bitch stole my pencil in kindergarten. I feel even more type of way that the teacher punished me for cussing her the fuck out about stealing my goddamn pencil. As a matter of fact, that very well could be the reason why I feel a certain type of way right now about people taking stuff out of my house without my permission. Maybe I should let people know that I feel a certain type of way about having thieves around me because I feel like people steal from me unjustly. You wanted to know how you can process your trauma. That's exactly how you can process it. And you are not telling yourself that the experience didn't happen, but what you did is you took a progression from the point in which it did happen up until now, the decisions that you made on it, on top of being able to correct it. Now you have a point in which you can move from. Now you have a place in where you can go. Now we got somewhere we got something we can do. We cooking with gas now, like they would say in the old school days, right? Because I want you to really go back and have a conversation about your badge of honor for real. And I told you, I had my handy dandy notebook. I think I got everything because I want you to be clear that aggression, the way we portray it a lot of the times, it's not just a cultural thing, it's a human thing. It really is hiding. It's hiding your badge of honor, it's hiding your trauma point. And I need us to really get in tune with the trauma point so that we can understand that when we're doing real shadow work, we're really doing it. We're really moving forward. We're really not making the same decisions and telling ourselves that we need to grow through some shit. We're not allowing people to talk bad to us any longer. We're not accepting unwanted criticism and letting that shit slide. We are not saying nothing for the sake of the community or sake of keeping the peace. Saying nothing is what leads to dying. And I'll be honest, you can kill me for less. I'm going to keep talking. If that's how you gonna take me out, I'ma keep talking because you're gonna have to find another way to do it. Because I'm gonna tell you about all of my discrepancies. I'm gonna tell you about how I feel about this shit from now on. Because at no point in time does anywhere say living life I should be making you comfortable all the fucking time. We all need to get under the understanding that we need to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Real talk. We all need to get under that understanding. You're not supposed to like everybody and everybody not supposed to like you. It don't give no fucks on how I live. None. It doesn't make me want to do any more to you than you to me at the end of the day. That's what I'm saying. When we get past those trauma points, we can then see human beings are fucking human beings and they do human type fuck shit. Sometimes we experience the fuckery and sometimes we don't. If you get a chance to experience the fuckery of a human being, it was an experience. It may have been a trauma experience, but you ain't got to act like it the entire time. You don't have to keep going as if it dictates your life. What we tell our people with mental health challenges is this. We understand that you go through a disorder, but you are not your disorder. Your disorder is your lived experience. And who the fuck are we to be out here telling people that you look like a traumatized child? Oh, you act like you needed a whooping when you was a kid. Oh, you used to always get in trouble, huh? Because you talk too much. Those is all badges of honor that kills off the spirit of another person. Those are all badges of honor that we need to pay close attention to and give real emotion and meaning behind. Tell a person that they ramble too fucking much and it makes you uncomfortable when people talk too much because soon that you're looking for a hand to come sliding across your face. How about that? Because when your mom used to beat you, she used to talk your fucking head off and then slap you. Let's look at real trauma points. These are real experiences that we go through as real human beings, and we need to treat each other as such. We need to stop allowing each other to get away with shit. We need to stop looking at it as, oh, that bitch is just ghetto. She just ratchet. Fuck out of here. We are all responsible for the ghetto and the ratchet. And as much as you say you not, you condone that shit or you dismiss that shit, which makes you fucking responsible. And ghetto and ratchet come from trauma experiences. The only reason why we can label someone as such is because we have a trauma experience that we think separates us from them, and it doesn't. Because the same chick that you talking ratchet, she making way more money than you, though. That part. The same chick that you call ghetto got way more likes than you, though. That part. Let's have some real conversations. Real fucking conversations with our sisters about what we saying. Because like I said yesterday, the only reason why you feel some type of way about ghetto and ratchet is because there's something within you that you can't get out that's ghetto and ratchet. And yes, it says broke with a bachelor's degree. Quit play. Yes. Because at one point I believed that statement. At one point I thought that I was broke with a bachelor's degree. At one point I thought that my family of origin deficit, and I got to go back to this because I realized I didn't cover that part, the food. Your family of origin deficit is a portion of your emotional well-being that is missing. That is something that your family did not give you. Sometimes it can be as simple as food, shelter, water. It can be as simple as withholding emotion. It can be as simple as withholding praise. It can be as simple as overdoing it. Your family of origin deficit. So sometimes you might encounter a person who's too touchy-feely. They family hug on them all the time. That's because the parents in that family didn't get a lot of love, so they over nurtured their children. So now you got a mama's boy or a daddy's girl. Every time you trying to take this bitch to make a decision, they can't do nothing without calling a parent. That one, that is a family of origin deficit. That means that they were overly loved or underly loved, or you get a person who's too cold. So the child receives military discipline. So the child grows up thinking that love is supposed to be cold. So you get a woman who gets into a domestic violence relationship, or a man, because let's be 110. We act like gay dudes don't be punching people in the face and covering that shit up. I done seen a lot of that lately too. Stop it. Well, we two niggas, and well, the one considers themselves to be a female, you fucking bastard. You out here praying on a week because you can. Let's talk about why you pray it. Because at the end of the day, it's a food. It's a family of origin deficit. At some point, you have to feel power and control. So therefore, any relationship that you're in, the other person has to feel powerless. So with that being said, we want to be very clear that your family of origin deficit really comes from the interaction of you and your family in their parenting style. That's why I said the generational curse can be as simple as trauma instilled. It can be as simple as I went to the hairdresser, that bitch made my hair fall out. My mother went to the same hairdresser, that bitch made her hair fall out. My grandmother went to that hairdresser, that chick made her hair fall out. Generational. But we keep going to this hairdresser because we trust her to make our hair fall out. You got to be mindful of what we're doing with this badge of honor. Your family of origin deficit also helps to talk about your badge of honor. If you come from a single parent, most mothers who come from a single parent become single mothers, and then they can say, I got this shit. My mom taught me. I don't know what y'all doing. My mom raised 3 kids on welfare. What? Then you might hear the other story. My mom raised 7 kids on welfare. What? But I was the caseworker that had 10 kids, and the mother ain't want none of them motherfuckers on welfare. How about that? The mom was on welfare by her goddamn self and wasn't none of them kids in the house with her because she didn't want them. How about that? The reason why she didn't want them is because she was told at a very young age, since her mother had children at a young age, that parenting was just not something that they did. They wasn't good at it. So they could have babies and just give them to the system. And she took that shit to heart. The children, though, grew up feeling unwanted. And it's not because she didn't truly want them. It's because she had a belief within her mind that was a trauma point. Because she had a child at a young age and was told at that time that she would not be a good parent. Every time she attempted to parent every child after that, she gave up. Why did she give up? Because of the trauma. It got to a point again of the trauma. Again, it's a badge of honor. So when you speak to that mother, she be like, yeah, I got 10 kids and the system is raising them. What? I mean, it was either them or me, girl, and they wasn't going to keep getting me. Right? Those badges of honor, we want to really talk about it, because when I sat down and really had a conversation with that personality type, it came from the fact that her mother told her she wasn't shit. Her grandmother told her mother that she wasn't shit. So now we had a generations of not shit people. And then when she found out she could be shit, it was too late because the system had already closed its door on her. But she still very much needed someone to help her to become what she wanted to be, what she saw herself as. So instead of allowing this mother to continue to believe that she not shit, what did I do? I told her, I understand that you lived through that experience. Forgive yourself. She said, well, you're sitting here right now. How should I forgive myself? I mean, you're here looking at me. You the one who took my last one. I'm like, you're absolutely right. But I want you to understand that you need to forgive yourself for believing a lie. You need to forgive yourself for believing some tomfoolery, buckhead bullshit that your mama put on you. You need to stop that. Why do you need to stop that? Because at the end of the day, you made every decision in your adult life based off of some shit she told you at 15. Bitch, you 32. At some point in time, you got to take ownership of your trauma and recognize that your trauma has stopped you from doing the shit that you really needed to get done. And just because it's scared, just because it hurts, just because it's painful, don't let the aggression, do not let the side effect of your righteous rage be the reason that you stop dealing with it. Well, the last time I tried to talk to people about it, they was just looking at me and was like, why are you yelling at me all the time? Well, maybe you need to stop talking to those people and come over here and talk to us. Maybe you need to stop having those conversations with them folk, because obviously them folk ain't helping you with your trauma. As a matter of fact, they adding on to it. As a matter of fact, they're adding on to the all the goddamn time. Because now you can't be you in your own circle, and that's not going to fucking work for you. You need to stop that shit today. So when I had this conversation again about this badge of honor, I want us to be very clear. We go around and we talk about very, very fluently of how we got through some shit, but we always leave off the emotions of what we felt in going through it. We need to give ourselves solidarity. We need to forgive ourselves and remind ourselves that we experienced it. We need to give ourselves permission to feel a fucking experience in our life and remind ourselves that we are still well. We are still living. We are still breathing. We are still well. And we lived through that. Don't wipe out the emotion and put it on some other shit and then get mad. Please don't go out here putting it on your little people and causing generational curses to be extended. Please don't have a bitch like me stop you in the middle of a fucking city trend and remind you that you're talking to a child. That child did not need to know how many F-bombs and bitches. Child didn't need to know none of that shit. My child didn't need to see that shit. You are still well. Thank you. Yes, Mama Love. Thank you for joining me over here on IG. Thank you. Yes. You need to know that you are still well. Please have a conversation about your emotions and the trauma that you're going through. I told you, I'm a victim of all of that shit. And I'm still social working for 17 years and then some. Quit fucking playing. I plan on being around till I'm 108 at the minimum. Y'all heard me, at the minimum. This sole contract is 108 at the minimum. So if it's 108 at the minimum on this sole contract, I'm trying to tell y'all, we have been doing well for generations, but we can do better. Stop telling your kids to stop crying before you give them something to cry for. Quit telling your kids that they shouldn't emote about the shit that they emoting about. Ask them what's going on. As a matter of fact, ask you why you mad about them being upset about some shit. Start there. I'm not saying give in to every little person whim. I'm not saying give in to your own little idiotic whims. And when I say idiotic, I'm not calling it stupid. I'm saying I'm referring to your id, your little ego, your person that does not have any real rationale. That I wanted part of your character. I'm talking about that person. You don't have to give in to that person, but you need to have a conversation with them. Excuse me. You need to have a conversation with that little girl or that little boy inside of you, and you need to find out why you were so scared and what pissed you off about people asking you about that fear from that point on. You need to also have a conversation if you have never told anybody, and I'm going to be 110. I did not speak on my childhood experience until I was 20 fucking 3. It happened from 6 to 12. So for 6 years, something happened to me and I didn't speak on it until I was 23. Why do I remember that I spoke on it at 23? Because at 23, I was already working at CYF and I had found the power and I had the tools to fight my mother for custody so that she would not emotionally abuse my sister. Because I told you, I just found out what the fuck that was. Or you ain't gonna do it to both of us, bitch. You got me, but I ain't gonna let you get to both of us, bitch. Right? I did not, and I can smile about this because I dealt with that part of the trauma. I divulged it at 23. My abuser showed up to my front door at 32. I had a fucking breakdown. I had a breakdown. I couldn't explain to the people closest to me why I couldn't kick this person off my porch. And let me be clear, I done already went to jail and whooped ass a couple of times of people twice the size of this motherfucker. But because of my badge of honor, I couldn't tell someone who was closest to me what the fuck was happening in that moment. I couldn't divulge the tears that was coming out of my face. I couldn't tell them why I was speechless, why I balled up into a fetal position as a fucking adult. That part. I'm divulging these information to you because there is trauma points. And from that point on, let me be clear, from the age of 12 up until 23, I whooped ass. I was baby Mike. Bitch with an attitude. Showed up at Slippery Rock with a chip on my shoulder. Fuck y'all and all y'all bitches. Come see me. Was good. I was that chick. I'm still that chick, very much so. I experienced that part of life. Don't test the water. You might get burnt. Real talk. But when you experienced me at that point, I was evil, vindictive. I did a whole bunch of shit that Trish does not do right now. I'll just be honest. I'm not that person right now. I did live that experience. It occurred to me when my mother died. I never told my father. Never told my father about that part of my life. Never told him. Never told him. I told my grandmother at 23. And then she passed. My grandmother was on her deathbed. I told my grandmother she passed. My mother, I told at 23 as well, because I'm about to fight her for custody of my little sister. We had to wrap that shit out real quick. So I told her. I never told my father. Why not? Because of my badge of honor. I lived with my mother. It happened at my mother's house. I was in between my mother and my grandmother's home as far as childcare. So I told my grandmother because when my mother wasn't around, I had to talk to my grandmother. It was that simple. I could give y'all the details of my life, but I told you I am a victim of all the abuses. All of them. Didn't even fucking know until I got to a field that expertise was in abuse. Didn't fucking know. Why didn't I know? Because of those badges of honor, that trauma. I thought everybody who lived in the projects had roaches. I thought everybody's mom used to beat them completely naked. I thought everybody's cousin used to play with them like that. Until I found out that shit wasn't normal. It took 4 years of a collegiate education and 2 years on a fucking job for me to understand that I had never dealt with my trauma. Never fucking dealt with it. I thought I had dealt with it because a lot of time had passed. I was cool. I had went to school. I did other shit. I got experiences, whatever. I still had boyfriends. I had sex. I did all of that. But I couldn't figure out why I never wanted to. Why it was always the farthest I did from my mind. It didn't even drop a clue on me until my social work methods 3 class, when I had to leave the classroom because we started talking about what happens to a child under that type of emotional duress. And I recognized I was that child. Yes. And I realized I was that child. It's difficult when you come across a kid that's an overachiever, who never wants to get in trouble, who's always in trouble and talks too much at the same time, and not understand that there was a trauma point, a very real one. Because of that trauma point, I wore badges of honor. So you couldn't call me out my name. You couldn't look at me sideways. You couldn't do none of that shit without seeing these hands. Because you was getting them and they was coming in hot. Period. Say something about it. Hot. I say all of this for 2 reasons. Again, every day is a fucking challenge, and every day we need to have a conversation about our trauma points. Every day we need to have a very serious, enlightened conversation about the emotions that come with them. Because we snap on our boyfriends, we snap on our husbands, we snap on our girlfriends, we snap on our parents that are still here. And on top of that, I want to be very clear. My mother passed suddenly, and I was still punishing her for a life she could not fucking control anymore. As an adult, a lot of the pain that I went through in my mother's passing was because I didn't forgive her enough when she was alive for a situation she could not fucking control. She made her decision. I lived through an experience, and I penalized her by not being around her ass until the day she fucking died. I'm not saying this to evoke emotion. I'm saying this because when I told you all at the beginning, I've gone through a lot of trauma points in the past 3 years. I've lost 3 very important things to me, 2 of which were my parents. And I couldn't build up the courage to tell my father on his deathbed what happened to me and why I was so distant as a child and why I remained distant as an adult. And because secretly I was penalizing them both for not protecting me. We need to have these conversations. We need to tell each other that it's okay, sis. And I'm sorry you experienced that. But you are well. You are still doing well. You are not being a hoe by talking about how bad it hurts. What you're doing is recognizing your experience and learning how to live through it, not with it. You got the fucking memory, only you was there. You know what that pain felt like. But it doesn't mean that you need to act like it every day. Some days it hurts more than others, you right? You right. But you ain't got to act like it every day. You don't have to treat your child like it every day. You don't have to keep going with that. You welcome, Mika. You welcome, because you know I'm about to wrap it up. I'm getting tired. I'm about to wrap it up because this was a very emotional point for me. And at first I was going to just try to keep it short and sweet, but I felt like I really needed to give what I gave. Because I need you all to understand that as boisterous as a person can be, as loud and proud as they can be, as leader as they are, we have trauma points that we literally have to deal with every day, and not enough of us are talking about it. Not enough of us are talking about it. I lost some very important things in my life over these past 3 years, and it's hurt. And you can see me on my lives, and I'm kikiing and I'm giving y'all the vocab. But this conversation is the conversation I have with my sisters behind the scenes. Because now I realize y'all need to know what the fuck is going on with me emotionally. Because I'm everybody's strong friend. And everybody else is my strong friend. I call and be like, what's up? How you doing? Let me tell you what the fuck just happened today. We go on into it, right? Don't forget to validate each other's emotions. Don't forget to say, sis, I know you lived through that before. Don't forget to remind me that I'm making the same fucking mistake that I made before when I start to tell you about the same person that I'm dealing with and they start to represent the qualities of the last person I didn't like. Don't forget to remind me, sis, you said you ain't like people like that, and I see that you talking to people like that. Don't forget to do me a solid fucking favor by reminding me that you lived through some trauma like that before. The shit started off all cute and sweet, and I ended up with 2 black eyes and a broken wrist. Let's talk about it. Because a lot of people don't know. Maybe the wrist didn't come because he did it. Maybe he came because I hit a wall. I want us to be well. And in order for us to be well, in order for us to really take the appropriate accounts, for us to do the appropriate social investment, we need to be open and honest about our badges of honor. We need to talk about the depression moments that we have when we think about it. We need to talk about the pain that we have. We need to talk about the fear of what that place looked like. No one understands until you talk about it. Death is the fastest way with silence. You're going to have to find somebody else because you ain't getting this from me. I'm telling you, I'm going to talk until I can't. 108, this soul contract said it. 108 minimum. I'm going to talk until I can't. Because what you're not going to do is kill me twice. You tried to silence me by allowing me to believe that I was able to be silenced. That was your fault. I'm paying attention now. You ain't going to catch me twice. Closed mouths don't get fed. All of us need to stay well, and that's where I'm at with it, y'all. Thank y'all so much, Nero. Yes, I'm happy to help because I'm telling you, I want us to be well, and I want us to have a real conversation about where that trauma comes from. It's not just the fact that you don't like to be touched. It's the way you don't like to be touched. It's the scent that that person has that reminds you of that moment. We need to be honest about why I'm uncomfortable. And if the person you honest with about why you uncomfortable can't handle it, you know there's 500 billion other people in the world, right? You found me on YouTube. You found me on Instagram. Let's find somebody else. Because I'm not going to let you believe that that's the only one you got. It might feel like it right now, but if you can't have this conversation with the person that you are with and they can't receive the fact, receive it. Fuck telling me, oh, damn, man, I didn't even know. So every time, no, don't let nobody penalize you for sharing your experience. Don't let nobody throw your experience back on you. Like Tina said, I wrote the book and that was going to be that. But since you want to keep bringing it up, let's talk about it. What I'm not going to let you do is make me feel like my experience was supposed to make me be less. No, my experience and what I shared with you was for you to have more. I wanted you to treat me in such a fashion. And with that experience and the way you shared it back to me, you're not treating me in the fashion that I expected. So now I can make a decision to leave or you can be put the fuck out. Because I'm still very much that bitch. Right? Still very much that bitch. But I'm also the person who's going to tell you up front how I feel about it, though. I ain't going to let you scapegoat me into thinking that my experience was all my fault and I should feel bad about it because I ain't sucking your dick tonight. Fuck you. You should feel bad that somebody else decided to do some shit like that to me. And you can't find a nigga to do something about it. You should do that. You should feel bad about that. How you gonna talk to me like that? Because, motherfucker, you talk to me first. Told you. You ain't gonna catch me silent, goddammit. I ain't gonna die like that. 108 years, somebody getting the fuck off my lawn. Okay, I got enough to say. All right, y'all. Yes. Still very much. That bitch, I'm playing. Catch some hands. Don't play at me. Still baby Mike all day. Now the aggression comes from a whole different place. I learned how to channel it. Watch out. So yes, thank you all. Thank you all so much for joining me, because I thought Instagram was gonna kick me off for real, but it didn't. But thank you so much for joining me, because real talk, my purpose really was for us to be well. My purpose really is for us to see that as strong of a badge of honor that I have, there's real emotions that come with that badge of honor, that we really do need to have these conversations with one another. Does that make sense, y'all? All right now. Thank y'all for joining me. And I hope to see y'all at the next Talk About It Tuesday. Look for me on my lukewarm Mondays. I'm coming back, y'all. I had shit to do. Okay? I'm coming back. So look back on Mondays in the hour of 10 for Lukewarm Fitness. Also catch me on my Shade du Jour website on Etsy. So you welcome anytime. I told you I do this shit for free. Also, check me out on the Patreon, the CWC Education Station on Patreon. I'm getting ready to drop a whole bunch of release rituals on my Patreon. Reason being is because it's April. So they say April showers bring May flowers. I want us to get a bunch of that release so we can get on to this abundance for summer. Let's get the shit out the way. You welcome Mama's Love too. Let's get it out the way. So if you're not subscribed to my Patreon, get on there. On top of that, I'm tailoring my Patreon to what my Patreons want. So you have an opportunity to really create a platform that is comfortable for you, that everybody else got to join. So if you's like, I ain't got nobody to talk to, bitch, there's a me. And I said it for both male and female terms in the most loving way I can possibly say the term bitch, because I call everybody I care about a bitch. I have to. Why? Because all my bitches love me. And I love y'all. And I love all my bitches. What Lil Wayne said it best. I love y'all. Like real talk. Because at the end of the day, when we look at it, forget the fact that it could be a negative term. Let's talk about the fact that Trish said it to you and she loves you. So it's an endearing term coming from Trish. I don't know if it's coming from anybody else the same way, but because it came from Trish, it's an endearing term and I love you. And I said it to you. So I want you to take in all of that love. Still very much be well. Understand that just because you're a strong sister don't mean that you don't need to talk about your emotions. And you got something to cry about. As a matter of fact, you've been crying for fucking centuries. As a matter of fact, let's tell niggas why we crying so we can stop. All right, y'all, I'm out. For real this time. I'll see y'all. I know.